Good morning and good afternoon to you on the East Coast. My name is Don Wilkinson, and on behalf of my partners and colleagues at Deloitte, and in association with the Institute of Corporate Directors, and of course, our good friends at BCN TV, welcome all to the Directors Series. Now, our topic today is the board's role around emerging risks. Now, just before we came on air, I checked out the attendance today. We have almost 1,400 registered for the session today. So that's a new record for us in terms of the Director Series. So hopefully each of you have been able to find a seat in each of the locations. Obviously a lot of interest in this topic, and clearly post-recession, a lot of discussion of risk management, and this whole thing of black swans. Apparently they do fly in flocks. So we're going to be exploring that today. We got a terrific panel to talk through the issues, and I think a lot of food for thought for you as you deal with this issue around the boardroom tables. Now, let's take a look at our agenda for today, and I must say it's a jam-packed one, so there's going to be some pressure on the moderator here to get us through to 1 o'clock. A lot of things to cover. But what we thought we'd do in terms of this area of emerging risk is take a look at some of those risks that boardrooms and the people on our panel are dealing with. Now, number one, operational risk management. Not a very sexy title, but I think if you think about the risks to a business, the external factors you need to be thinking about, and just think about geopolitical risks. In the health world, think about Ebola and moving across the ocean. And of course, the one that goes without saying is that of cyber crimes, cyber attacks. So that's what we'll be getting at in terms of operational risk. Now, the flip side of risk around cybersecurity and so forth is the upside of technology. So lots of opportunity to enhance economic value, very disruptive to various business models. So we'll be talking about that, and just think about the fairly significant transactions that are taking place. Think of Alibaba in the US and some of the major transactions at frankly eye-popping values in terms of acquisitions, dealing with drones, dealing with robotics, and of course the Internet of Things. So we'll be talking a bit about those disruptive technologies. Now the next two, people say, Don, well those aren't really emerging risks, demographics and regulatory. What I would say is the shape of those and the impact that these are starting to have is very, very dramatic. And so think about demographics. We've known about that for a long time, but only now we're starting to really see the impact. So it's one of those risks that kind of catch up to you by stealth. So we'll be talking about demographics, longevity, how does that impact things like retirement, customer expectations and trends, so significant issues that boards need to be thinking about. And of course on the regulatory front, it's pretty clear to me if you start talking about the financial services industry, we've all heard about Dodd-Frank and how voluminous that is, and think about the equivalents around the world. So very significant impact there. And if you shift to the other industries like the resources, energy industry, things around climate change, and a topic we talked about before on the Director Series, that of social license, are obviously significant items, and I'd say rapidly impacting both uncertainty and some decision making that needs to take place at the board. The last piece that we will do is talk about what is the board's role? How do you engage? How do you think out of the box in terms of activities at your board when dealing with emerging risks? Now, as always, we are going to put you to work. We're looking for some engagement. So during the course of the next 2 hours, we will be putting a couple of questions out to you to get you engaged on this subject. And as always, we're going to try to leave some time at the end of the session to do our best to answer some of your questions. Please don't wait till the end to get those questions in. Jot them down, get them to the administrator in your location. They'll get beamed to us and we'll do our best to answer it at the end of the session. Now, joining me in the studio today is a great group of panelists, very experienced. Clearly my short introduction won't do them justice, so do take a look at the extended bios that are included in your handout package. But on my left is Eileen Mercier. Eileen is a professional director, spent a lot of time with some major corporations, has been recognized in terms of being a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Canada, or Directors of Canada. She is the chair of the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan Board, a very major institutional investor. Also sits on the board of TK Shipping, Intact Financial, I believe, Eileen, and also University Health Network. Also had a consulting career before that, and prior to that, she was Senior VP and CFO at Abitibi Price. So lots of experience. Eileen, you've been with us before on strategy and now risk, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Next to Eileen is Alistair Summerly. Alistair is the recent past president and Vice Chancellor at the University of Guelph. And Alistair, I must say, my daughter attends the university and says great things about it in terms of what she's doing there. Under Alistair's leadership, the university really is renowned in terms of its civic engagement and volunteerism. Alistair is very well known on the international circuit. So he does a lot of international research dealing with things like cancer, HIV, AIDS, and many, many others. He is also the past chairman, I think it's the World University Services Canada, Alistair, which is an international development agency here in Canada, and did some work, for instance, in the refugee camps in Kenya. So a lot of experience, and we'll be very interested in perspectives in the education sector. So Alistair, new to you, welcome to the Director Series.
Thank you.
Now, next to Alistair is John Classen. John is another very seasoned director, so he sits on a number of major boards. He's on the Sun Life board, where he is the chair of the Risk and Review Committee, John. Also sits as a chair of the audit committees, I think, on Rogers and Cameco, and also has a lot of experience in other industries as prior director in real estate and the mining industry. He is a fellow FCPA. Now, that's what the new terminology is, right, John? And former managing partner for PwC in the GTA. So, John, this is first time for you in the Director Series. Delighted to have you here and looking forward to your comments.
Thanks, Don.
And last, but certainly not least, is my good colleague, Bob Kippers. Bob is a senior partner in our U.S. firm, responsible for global regulatory and corporate governance matters. So clearly anything of a regulation front, public policy, dealing with the accounting profession is very much on Bob's radar screen. He was the past Deputy Chief Executive Officer of our U.S. Firm, and he's still very active in looking after our very major U.S. clients and global clients. Now, I do need to add this. In the corporate governance sense, Bob chairs the Director Series equivalent in the U.S. You know, if he starts taking over the moderating today, he comes by it honestly. So, Bob, welcome to the Director Series, and once again, we're looking forward to your comments.
Thanks, Don.
Now, just before I get turned over to our panelists, just a little stage setting or level setting. First, the question is, Don, what do you mean by emerging risk? What is that? And what I would say is you take a look around, you talk to various organizations, there's no set definition of what emerging risk is. But the one I sort of like is something new, something that certainly has a definite impact, in fact could be even transformative on your business. Typically, it's something that's not well understood. So complex, perhaps long-term in nature, but not well understood. And typically, it's not planned for. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And just to put it in perspective, if you think about that risk continuum between the unknown risks and the known risks as the two end marks, on the known risks, you know, those are the things that you're talking about, day-to-day issues. They're on your risk registers, well-known, a lot of energy focused on that. And then if I go to the other extreme and I go to the unknown risks, those would be the black swans. So low probability, but high impact, but not known. And then in between, you have this issue of emerging risks. So they're out there, they're familiar, they could be long-term, they're trends, change in circumstances. Sometimes, like demographics or longevity, they sneak up by stealth, but they are out there. And the question is, how do you get your hands around that at the board? You'll often hear that the board's role is oversight, and there's no doubt that boards need to do that. The other two things I put in, increasingly people are looking for value from the board's insight and foresight. And I think when you start thinking about insight and foresight and the time frame of some of these issues, this is clearly an area that boards need to be thinking about and weighing in.